A day or two after the announcement of the discovery of the statue in Bukit Choras, a rumor started circulating that said statue has the aesthetics of Greco-Buddhist art. I see this in Facebook groups, in X, even in the comment section of my videos in TikTok on this topic. The speed with which this rumor gains audience amongst Malaysians is quite astonishing, making me wonder if there was some motivation behind this attempt to extrapolate towards Europe or the Occident. Now, Greco-Buddhist style, or the Gandharan style of Buddhist art, tends to reflect Greco-Roman emphasis for artistic realism, as opposed to artistic abstraction. It also tends to be more emotive and sensual in its presentation. To my eyes, the Bukit Chora statue is neither a representation of strict artistic realism, nor is it emotive in presentation. But I've been a student of history long enough to know that a claim, no matter how outlandish, should not be discounted simply because it sounds outlandish. As such, here I am making this video, examining this topic. Much has been written about the topic of Greco-Buddhist art. As such, a summary here would suffice. Greco-Buddhism and its product, Greco-Buddhist art, is a cultural syncretism movement that occurred roughly between 300 BC to 500 AD. As a direct result of Alexander of Macedonia's conquest of northwest India and the subsequent Mauryan expansion and the spreading of Buddhism from Ashoka through Asia Minor to Greece. The consequence of this period of cultural exchange between Greece and India is marked by two very significant events. Both events leave lasting impact on the world we live in today. The first impact, or the first effect of this syncretism, is the normalizing of the portrayal of Buddha's image in artistic form. Now, early Buddhists, from the death of Gautama Buddha to the 1st century BC, were an iconic in their artistic expression of the Buddha, meaning they do not portray the Buddha in human form, but rather represented him through symbols like a tree or an empty throne, as seen in this picture here. This taboo on making statues of gods were once rather common in many pre-modern societies, as the making of statues was often associated with the occult, voodoo, black magic, and casting of curses. This relaxed attitude towards the making of carvings or statue was perhaps due to Platonic theory of forms being foundational in Greek worldview. According to Plato, the physical world and whatever we can create or make in it is not a perfect representation of its true perfect form. An artisan, in making a statue, can only mimic but a shadow of the true form. As such, the true Buddha cannot be reduced or fully reflected by merely creating an image of him. As noted in an earlier video, art often represents human aspiration more than human realities. This may explain the extraordinary effort with which Greco-Roman artisans recreate extreme realism in their artistic expression. Their strive for realism in art is their meditation, their aspiration to get closer to their divine, the perfection of form. This change in attitude has profound effect in East and Southeast Asia, following the spread of Buddhism, resulting in the ubiquitous portrayal of the Buddha in all of these countries. But the cultural exchange goes both ways. The second effect of the syncretism between Greek and Indian culture is that Indian philosophy, particularly Buddhist philosophy, influencing Greek philosopher, An example here is Pyrrho of Elis, who traveled alongside Alexander of Macedonia, spending years in India actively seeking and learning Indian philosophy. In fact, Pyrrho's terminologies and methodologies were so similar to early Buddhist philosophy that when a student of mine, in discussing the concept of ethics, showed me an excerpt from Pyrrho's Aristocles passage some years back, I instantly, as anyone who has read Buddhist texts would, recognized the similarities, despite being unfamiliar with Pyrrho's work at that time. I quote in translated form the Aristocles passages where Pyrrho said, "As for pragmata ethics, they are all adiaphora, undifferentiable, astadmeta, unmeasurable, and anapikrita, undecidable. Therefore, neither our sense perception nor our doxai, the views or our beliefs, tell us the truth or lie. So we certainly should not rely on them. Rather, we should be adoxastoi, without views, and aklineis, impartial to beliefs." Now, as comparison, I quote from a very famous sutra, the Heart Sutra, a work which the Mahayana Buddhists expounds on the idea of shunyata, emptiness. All things, including the Dharma, have the characteristics of emptiness. Anutpana, no arising. Aniruddha, no ceasing. Amala, no purity. Avimala, no impurity. Anuna, no incompleteness. And aparipurna, no completeness. Not only is the form reminiscent of Buddhist methods and terms, the philosophical end of both are similar as well. For Pyrrho, it's ataraxia, the cessation of the disturbance of the mind. For the Heart Sutra, it's the realization of sunyata, freeing the mind from illusions and cravings of permanence. Their connections, in fact, goes much deeper than that. An example is the concept of tetralemma, a four-sided version of the two-sided dilemma we have today, where a statement can be true, untrue, both true and untrue, or neither true nor untrue. This tetralemma concept heavily features in Indian philosophy and is also central to Pyrrho's philosophical skepticism. So that is an overview of the two effects resulting from the syncretism of the two cultures. Greek culture normalizing iconography of the Buddha, influencing the arts of the whole of Asia, and Buddhist philosophy influencing Greek philosophy, leaving an indelible imprint on philosophical skepticism and Stoicism. So, coming back to the statue and the question of whether it has direct Gandharan influence, I have my doubts on it being a primary product of Greco-Buddhist art. But after learning and considering the above, this question seems rather shallow compared to the impact on the world as a result of Greco-Buddhist syncretism, doesn't it?